Ready? Okay. I'd like to call the City of Shelton Commission meeting to order and welcome you all here. Our first item of business is a commission report from Mr. Dwayne Wilson concerning the annual bluegrass from the forest. Yeah, no. Podium.
Dwayne Wilson with Christmastown Kiwanis / Bluegrass in the Forest. We put on an annual Bluegrass Festival in May. I provided the commissioners with a copy of the report that Leslie has us do to she can forward it on to the state to get the funds for marketing. And that's what we've come requesting as marketing funds. Excuse me. And we were awarded $7,000 this year. And I'll just go down in the order that the form is. Our overall attendance was, we were guessing and hoping for around 2,000, and it came out to about 2,000. And one of the questions is, how do you come by this this number? And part of it is Dave Miser, who's been at the Shelton High School and is the high school Performing Arts Center engineer. Got a real good feel. It's the auditorium seats 750. And then we also sell tickets on PayPal, so we know they're coming. And then we have campers. We had a 95 camping, and then I go around and check with all the hotels. And there were no rooms in Shelton the weekend of that. It wasn't all us, I'm sad to say, because the racetrack had a lot of them also. But there were no rooms available in Shelton. And then we had people staying. We do a questionnaire, and a lot of this information comes off it. And we had people staying Alderbrook, Glen Air, out at the casino, in Tumwater, 3 or 4 staying in Tumwater because they couldn't find rooms here. So that part of it. So as you go through this, then the next one is total number of attendees who will travel 50 miles or more to attend. We estimated 300. We actually had 400. Of that total, how many traveled from out of state or country? We estimated 100. We had 122. We had a dobro player in one of the bands from Canada, so there was quite a few folks came down to support him. And so how many attendees stayed in each room? How many stayed in the paid lodging nights? We estimated 185. We actually had 196. And with that one, I'd go around and check with each establishment and ask them how many people stayed, those kinds of things. Excuse me, unpaid accommodations, stayed overnight but did not pay for lodging, stayed with friends or family. We estimated 10, and we had 15, and that information was on on our questionnaire. And then the other folks here can't see this, but as you another of the question attending 55 miles or less, we have zip codes of all the folks that came from. So it's Olympia, Lacey, another one Olympia, Aberdeen, Cosmopolis, Grapeview, Hoodsport, Shelton, Tenino, Tokeland, so forth. And then attending from 55 miles or more, Bothell, Enumclaw, Federal Way, Eastern Washington, Port Angeles, Coopville, Snohomish. That's just, you can see there's lots of zip codes in here. And then attending from out of state or country, we actually almost draw more people from Oregon. There's just a big bluegrass following from Oregon than we get from Shelton, if you can believe that. But we're gradually making inroads into Shelton. I don't think a lot of folks understand the quality of the talent. We have here our headliner, Michael Cleveland, is a 13-time International Bluegrass Violinist of the Year.
Wow.
And people that are involved in bluegrass understand how good he is, but if you haven't heard him or seen him, it's pretty amazing. So I think we do meet the intent of using these funds is to bring what a lot of them call heads in the beds, bring people from out of town here. And even if they camp, they're coming to Shelton, seeing what this area has to offer. They have to pass through along the bay this way. If they come from Port Angeles, they got to come along the canal. If they come from Bremerton. So I think we do expose a lot of people to what our area has to offer, and obviously they're eating here, buying food, buying fuel, those kinds of things, besides putting heads in a bed. So I don't think you can only go by how many people stay in the motels, but there's a lot of residual things that impact. So any questions?
No, I'm really impressed by your detailed That's crazy.
It takes a lot of time. That's why it's July.
I bet it takes a lot
so.
of time. Oh, and I missed it this year. I'm looking forward to next year.
Yeah, we'll have it again next year. And
Great.
again, unless even the regional bands, Greg Linder, our host band, is from kind of the Puget Sound area, but those guys are phenomenal musicians. And then, of course, the national guys are just, you can't even, it's almost like, are they human? They're that good, so.
Dwayne, where all do you advertise? Like, do you advertise in the surrounding areas?
Sure, yes. We do a certain amount on the radios, and then with Roxy, KGY, which is, can't think of the name of it now, Mix 96, KMS, of course. And then in the newspapers, we go with Tacoma News Tribune, Daily Olympian, Aberdeen Daily World, Longview Daily News. Folks that when I look at these zip codes, I try to figure out where they're coming from. And then in the winter, we go to what's called wintergrass, which again, if you're not a bluegrass fan, you don't know what it is, but it fills up the first 12 floors of one of the towers in Bellevue. And if you don't want music all night, then you can't be in there. They won't let you stay there. But it literally goes all night. And so we rent a booth there and sit. And so we see a lot of folks we know, plus a lot of people come up and ask what we are and ask about the headliners and that stuff. So yeah, we try to do a lot of advertising. And then this year with the county, there's a lot of, they targeted millennials, and so a lot of online type things. So we worked with them as best we could. And then I think we need to do both. There's a lot of guys my age that aren't real active on the internet, so guys and gals, and so we try to reach them both ways.
Oh, so
that's our intent.
You're going to be looking for a bigger venue soon, huh?
Well, I hope, but that venue is so nice because Dave's done a great job of new seats. The I don't know how many of you have been there, but it's a really nice thing. So I think we're still a few years away, and I keep saying, what are we going to do if we sell out of it? We haven't, so I'll worry about that when it gets there.
Question. Go ahead, finish.
Oh, okay. My last question is, I'm curious, are you a performer as well? And if so, what instrument do you play?
I do. I play stand-up bass, but I try not to, what we do here is for the guests, not for me. But I do get a lot of jamming in, especially when we're up at Wintergrass. We jam all night. So here, I'm usually so tired and I don't get done doing what I have to do till like midnight. Then I jam from midnight to 3 or 4 in the morning. Come back the next
wow.
Day. So, But yeah, I'm a very average bluegrass bass player.
I don't believe that.
I love it. It's fun.
I don't believe that for a minute.
Come on, Dwayne.
Trust me, it's true. But, yeah.
I was just wondering, so how many years have you been involved in this presentation here? You personally?
This is the 13th.
13. You started it, kind of like. You were one of the founding fathers.
Yeah. I don't think we got Shelton funds the first year. I think we just had county, so I guess it'd be 12. Then after that, we started requesting.
I greatly appreciate your enthusiasm and your dedication to our city on many other levels. And so it's good to see you again. And being actually one of the members that is on the lodging task board, we work together on that. I can't imagine us pulling your plug, okay? So Kathy, did you have any questions?
Did you say you have a web page?
Yes, bluegrassfromtheforest.com.
Okay. And then we need a new hotel in Shelton, don't we?
We do. I think there's not any doubt about that. I don't know who's got
new
the money
hotel.
to make it happen, but yeah, absolutely, we do. They're full, but again, it's pretty seasonal. We're outside the typical, so that's good. We're in May and it's raining, but I don't know what they do from October to February. But those are the kind of things we work about.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Nice to see you all.
All right. Next is Melanie Bacala is going to talk to us about a visioning downtown update. So,
invite Julie Nichols up with me. So Melanie Bacala and Julie Nichols, and we are co-chairs of the Shelton Downtown Visioning Project. So we really just want to give you an update as to kind of what's happened to this point and what's happening now. It was 4 months of talking and about 2 weeks of, oh my gosh, it's really happening. But just to remind you, about a year and a half ago, this started as a project between the Shelton Mason County Chamber, Green Diamond and Simpson, and the business community, and the city of Shelton. And everybody put in money to start this project with Forterra to really come up with a vision of what downtown what downtown can and should look like. Forterra brought in an architectural firm, Methuen, as well as a group called Walkable Livable Communities. And we had a very community-oriented process. So first we did a downtown walking audit. So we publicized that and invited anybody who wanted to come to do that walking audit. And Walkable Livable Communities led that. And then shortly after that, we held about a 4-hour session on a Saturday, led by Forterra, where anybody could come and join. And really, it was fun. We got to cut out and use glue and colored pencils and pens. And everybody, if you could do anything, what would you do? And what was interesting was there were some really awesome, unique ideas. But I think what surprised most of us is how similar, when you really look at the base concept, how similar a lot of the ideas were. And that was part of the process. The other piece is that Forterra took some of these plans that had been done in the past and took the information from those and really formulated this visioning document. And Forrest is holding the visioning document, just so, not that you need to, but that's the document. And that is available on the Chamber's website, and I think as well as the city's website, so, okay. Pretty pictures, yes. Julie and I took the lead of putting together a downtown visioning. It's not a committee, it's an advisory group to work hand in hand with the city team. So we're actually all working together on what are our priorities, because there's a lot of things in that visioning plan. And really our mission was, with the plan as our guide, we're going to identify opportunities and forward them to the city commission for consideration. And again, I need to back up. I stood you guys up a couple weeks ago. I want to apologize sincerely for that. It was not on purpose. So we've been working since January, getting together twice a month to identify priorities. And the group, in addition to the vision, identified the priorities as the road diet, which we're going to talk about further, better signage on coming in from the highway. What was the third thing? Communication. Oh, and communication about what's going on. So the last 6 months have been just a lot of figuring out what does it look like and what we can or can't do. And it's been so great to have this partnership with the city, because we're up here like, ooh, it can be so pretty, and they're somewhat based in reality, and it's been really good. And a lot of it's been, full forward, stop, we can't. But ultimately, we have a vision. So the flyer that I put out for you guys, thank you, Amy and Forrest, for putting this together very quickly for us, are the first steps to improving downtown Shelton. So the picture in the middle is what we hope this looks like long term. But initially, we are doing a test. It's a road diet test. And it's a demonstration of what it would look like to modify railroad, because one of the things we learned through the visioning process is reducing speeds makes for a more pedestrian-friendly downtown. And so reducing the lanes, reducing the speeds, more on-street parking, and really making the pedestrians be more comfortable is our goal. And there's a lot we want to do, and we aren't doing it all right now, but we're getting a lot of it done. So starting Thursday, because I think weather's agreeing, from 3rd to 5th, huh? Yeah. Am I right? 3rd to 5th? Mm-hmm. Okay. It's going to be 2 lanes. It's going to be reduced to 2 lanes to demonstrate what it would look like for all of Railroad. Ultimately, if this works, I think the goal is to make all of Railroad a 2-lane road. Reduce the speeds. Make it a place people want to slow down, get out of their cars and shop and do things. So when people approach 3rd in the right-hand lane, they will be forced to turn. Approaching 5th, right-hand lane, forced to turn. We really want an aesthetic piece of this. And how many hours have we spent on colored crosswalks?
Many
hours on colored crosswalks. Because just, we think, you just paint them. It's not that easy. So we want crosswalks painted at all 3 intersections for both realistic purposes and cost purposes. We are going to right now have nice colored crosswalks crossing Railroad at 3rd and crossing Railroad at 5th. But you see, ultimately, we want painted crosswalks in all 4 of them. It also features back-in angle parking on the north side of Railroad. The parallel parking on the south side of Railroad will stay the same, but it will be restriped and all pretty, because everything's going to be restriped. And there will be a multi-purpose buffer lane on each side, because if you're at a 2-lane road and somebody needs to go into back-in parking, you don't want them to hold up traffic. So there's basically a lane that you don't drive in, but you can deliveries to locations or to pull over to parallel park. It also can be used for bikes and other things as well, but that's a multi-purpose lane. And you will see in this that they're colored. We don't see that happening in the near future, but again, this is a vision of what we want to have happen. The street diet test will first be basically the restriping and the painting. So a really refreshed railroad, 2-lane road, a couple colored crosswalks. And then our goal, which is still, it's relying on budget, it's relying on raising money, is to test a mini traffic circle at 4th. So right now the light would stay going, and then next spring in 2017, we would test not using that light and testing a mini circle. Really to see if it makes sense there, does it make sense at all, how does it work, how does it keep traffic flowing? And so that's why you see that in this item, but we have a lot of things to do. We're just trying to get through this first, but that's the long-term plan. Do you have anything to add?
Just that she's just capping up what would be a phased, what we call street diet, if we can put together the budget to do that. So,
Yeah.
Forrest has a question.
I think what we should add to that is we really want to encourage people to come down and utilize the test area, the demonstration area. Try and paint the parking, try and do the parallel parking, and really become a part of it. Don't avoid it because it's different. But Melanie mentioned the parallel parking on the south side. That parallel parking is going to be the same, but it's going to be moved out.
Yes, yes, the sidewalks are going to be expand a little bit. Thank you, Forrest.
Yeah,
We expect there to be lots of feedback for this. And part of the issue is the communication. We're a little bit behind, and I own that. We thought it was pushed out to August. And so we're like, whoo, we have some time. And then we had a meeting where we realized we could do it sooner, thanks to some of the ideas from the city staff going, no, we can do this sooner. And that was like, oh, crap, we need to communicate this. So appreciate the Coopers. Maryland got all these passed out to downtown businesses last week. We're starting communications with iFiber, the newspaper, Facebook, things like that. Really wanting to communicate, but this is going to start on Thursday, I believe. Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention to the public and that we will be closing Railroad Thursday evening from 6 p.m. until the project is striped. We need to stripe the crosswalks at all the intersections, so we need to actually close it. What Maryland brought around, I think, was just 3rd to 5th being closed, but in talking to my superintendent, we actually need to close it from 1st all the way to 7th.
Yeah, I don't think the flyer said what we were going to close.
Okay.
That's just for the road diet, but thank you.
What time
Yeah.
is that on Thursday?
6 p.m.
And I think I'll make sure that that gets out on the Facebook page as well.
And part of the timing is that, of course, the city has the budget to do this restriping anyway, so we wanted to time this test so we wouldn't be wasting striping money. So city staff has worked diligently to sort of time out the different aspects of painting in order to get this in a good part of it under current budget limitations. So.
And then the Bite of Shelton has been moved to downtown as a way to serve as our launch event to demonstrate the different features. The back-end parking may or may not be done by then. We're waiting on DOT approval, but I know city staff's working really hard on making it part of it. So if it can be done, I know it will be done. Otherwise, it'll just happen a little bit later. We have learned the art of patience, realizing that every time you turn around, there seems to be another roadblock. I don't know how you guys do it. But it's been amazing, and it's been such a great partnership, community and city partnership, that I'm really excited to get feedback from folks. So there is a survey that is being put together that is going to be on the city's website to gather feedback from folks, as well as feedback on the Facebook page.
Questions or comments? Are we ready for that period?
Yeah, I think
Are
so.
you guys ready to
Yeah.
answer? Okay, do we have any questions or comments? at this time?
Yeah, I have a couple of comments, actually. It has been a long, drawn-out process. I'm really happy with the way that it's moving forward. I wish that we had a lot more money, and I wish we could do it all at once. But what I would really, really like to urge everyone is to have patience and try it. Please try it. Don't just assume you can't back end park, or else just determine you're going to drive around and find a parallel park. So, but that's the biggest concern I'm hearing, is people are afraid of the back end parking. And there were reasons for going that direction, which were that number one is that the back end parallel parking has been proven much safer than the forward end parking. So we'll perfect it eventually. That's it. Good job.
Kudos. This is gorgeous. I'm excited. I hardly drive in town very much so, but I'm going to make a special effort to drive down and park and walk around, because I only live down here. So anyway, this is exciting. Very exciting.
I think you have a supportive commission here in pushing this thing forward. I know over the past months and months back, different people that agree or just disagree. The problem is you'll never get everybody to agree. We got to give this, even the ones that disagree, give it a chance to really, work it through the system, because no one's going to like every bit about it. But I think that we are all excited about moving this forward. It's been kind of a long time coming, and so I don't feel any resistance from this commission in moving forward.
Also, we should give some kudos to the very diverse membership of this advisory committee. And I sit on quite a few boards, Melanie sits on, and I think it is one of the most diverse that I have ever sat on. And we all leave the room after we've reached consensus and we move forward. And I just want to thank everybody who's in this room who's participated in that process.
Absolutely. All right. So get to work. We're ready to go, I think. You wanted a question?
Yeah, on the back end angle parking, is it going to go all the way to the curb, or is that going to be set out? Like if you back in, will your rear tires end up touching the sidewalk?
Right now, there's no money to actually move the curbs, but long-term, there would be maybe some landscape in between or some changes to that. Yeah. Some wheel stops. There are a whole bunch of different design ideas once we get to the point where we're past the test and people decide what they want. But thank you for the question. It's a good one.
All right. Sounds good. So what are you today? You're asking for anything today from us, or just?
Your continued support would be great.
Absolutely. I don't think we have any problem with that.
No.
Okay.
Not at
Thank you
all.
very much.
Very good.
Appreciate it. All right, moving right along, we have our weekly commission reports, and so Commissioner Moore.
Okay, this afternoon I have a meeting with Homes First. We're still working on finalizing the purchase of properties to be used for a veterans permanent shelter and another property to be used for a veteran shelter. Very, very excited to complete this first project in the city with Homes First. And then tomorrow I have a Housing Coalition executive meeting, so the work on housing continues. On Thursday, I have the Visioning Committee meeting bright and early. And then in the afternoon, I have a meeting with United Way and some other partners. We are planning the Day of Caring for this year is going to be in August, and we're doing a Shelton city cleanup. And so I'm on the planning committee for that, and I will be giving many more updates on that, and you will hear a lot about it. And then we will have a bright, shiny, clean city in one day. And that's it.
Thank you very much, Commissioner McDowell.
Thursday, I have the the chamber after hours out at the Cameo in Union. That's this Thursday, isn't it? And that's North Mason and those two chambers combined. Both chambers. That's at 5:30 on Thursday. 5, excuse me. And then last Friday, I got to participate in the shooting simulation with the police department. And if you've never held a gun, like I have never held a gun, you get a whole different perspective of what the police department, the police officers go through when they have to aim and they have to shoot, and they can't be this way, and they have to do it right on and get right where they aim. Out of 9 shots, I got 2 right where I was supposed to. So I need a lot of practice, but it was really it was eye-opening to be able to do that. And even though the picture was on a screen, I actually shot a guy that was coming towards me with a knife, and it made me sad. And I think to myself, what would it be if I really had to do that? But be prepared if you ever have to. So anyway, that's what I did on Friday.
All right, and I also did that little test, and unfortunately, I missed him all the way. He killed me, so luckily it was just a simulation. I'm here today, but...
Well, I shot him in the shoulder that he wasn't holding the knife.
I didn't shoot him. I tried to shoot him. My bullets went all over the place, so... Anyway, I don't know. I'm not real good at that one, but...
Sorry,
anyway,
I missed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the other point about it is the gun that you're holding has a little CO2 cartridge in it. So it gives you a kickback, just like a regular gun. And there's a guy screaming at you, and you know you're trying to talk. You're trying to talk him out of it, like they do first. You don't want to kill anybody. You're trying to talk, but then he pulls his gun out, and then you got just this much of a chance to either shoot him or be shot. And my bullets went all over, and the guy killed me. So anyway, I didn't do it a second time. But what I would like to do is apologize to Melanie because I got to practice her last name. Bacala. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so I wrote it down here, and I'm going to practice it more at home. So tomorrow, Tuesday, I will be attending a MACECOM board meeting, and that completes our weekly commission reports. Next is general public comment period. If anybody would like to say something, you sign in, and you can speak. We give 3 minutes, so now or later.
You're not going to the Chamber of Commerce thing?
Conflicting... I have a conflicting thing. What do you say? Schedule, conflict of schedule there. So Marilyn signed in?
I actually have a couple more. The first one is
Yes.
Mr. Randy Lewis.
Okay.
Randy Lewis. Hi, everybody. Okay, here we go again, our weekly drama with respect to Shelton's debt. Under the rules here, I have to wait a week to respond, in this case to the comments my friend Bill Busaka made after I spoke last week. But hey, that's fine with me. I love talking about this stuff. I plan to keep coming back until everyone gets this right. After the meeting last week, I mentioned to Bill that unfunded retirement liabilities are indeed debt. Bill's response was, yeah, look what's going on in California. So what is going on in California? A Stanford organization states of California's $443 billion in outstanding debt, nearly half is attributable to unfunded public retirement benefit liabilities. And if you think retirement debt is some kind of Tea Party invention, think again. Progress Illinois, whose stated mission is adding a progressive voice to the Illinois political media sphere, quotes an organization comments on Illinois' pension debt. The critics never talk about the level of pension benefits, they talk about the debt, and it's an enormous debt. The organization, Progress Illinois, quotes, the quote I just made, is the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, a public union, hardly Tea Party advocates. Now, there's considerable debate going on out there with respect to public pensions, but the reality that unfunded retirement liabilities are a debt is not part of that debate. This is universally acknowledged wherever people happen to be on the political spectrum, except apparently for a handful of people in Shelton, Washington. As an example, in the city of East Lansing, Michigan, they write on their website there are 2 relatively big chunks of debt related to retired or eventually will be retired City of East Lansing employees. These are our unfunded pension liability and OPEB, other post-employee benefits. Forbes magazine states, pension promises should be treated like the senior government debt they are, akin to default-free government bonds. If unfunded retirement liabilities are indeed debt, as we have demonstrated, then it is not logical to assert that Shelton's debt is only $50 million. I did understand Bill's assertion that he feels that the level of Shelton's debt is reasonable. If you want to argue that Shelton's debt is appropriate, fine, go for it. You can agree or disagree with the current majority commission philosophy that debt is a problem in Shelton. Debate focused on issues is healthy and constructive. But at least let us be complete and transparent about the numbers in this and in any debate. Thank you.
Thank you. You finished right there with just 10 seconds to go.
I've been practicing. More boring.
More trees.
All right,
I
next,
have my own tree.
next we have somebody else who'd like to say something.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Mayor, we have Mr. Clay Bennett.
Commissioner Moore, Mayor Krantz, Commissioner McDowell, greetings. My name is Clayton Bennett. I'm a resident of the city of Shelton, and I'm really excited about this downtown improvements project. This is going to be really good. The people who are going to be nervous about backing in are people who shouldn't pass their driver's test. At any rate, I'm here to talk to you about that house up on East E Street. I work at the Habitat for Humanity store, and I walk down East E Street every now and then. You know, it's right close to the Methodist Church. And there's a house on the right that was condemned. A bunch of people living there, a bunch of dogs, but a bunch of crime was condemned. And the trash is still out in the yard. I have a photo here that just shows, you know, simply how disgusting it is. But I'm not worried about old buildings that are dilapidated as long, like, well, thank God the Cameron Hotel burned down, and safely. But I'm not concerned about buildings that look a little shabby as long as there's no trash around there. There is horrible trash in the yard, and I ask that that be taken care of. Before they demolish the house, just please remove the trash. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate your comments. It's something we are all working on together, but you know, I don't know where we go from here other than I definitely sympathize with what you're saying. I routinely talk to whatever city administrator is around and I say, you know, we got to do this, and generally I'm reminded of rules and ordinances and notices and all this stuff, but I think I would also say this commission is very sympathetic to trying to clean up the city. And so thanks for you, just another reminder on what we need to kind of work on, and I'll talk to our city administrator again about your comments. Any other questions? Yeah.
I would like to thank you, Mr. Bennett, for bringing this to our attention. And after I spoke with you the other day, I did drive past the house on my way home, and you're right, it's disgusting, it's horrible. And what I would like to do is, as this commission, if we need to change ordinances to get more teeth into our abatement issues, let's do it and move forward on this. It's ridiculous, and we can see how it drags down the neighborhood. It's horrible. And so I would be really interested in looking at ways that we can strengthen our laws and our ordinances and figure out some way that we can fund following through and cleaning up our city. And part of the Day of Caring was, the Day of Caring project was in part prompted by a concern about the attitudes that we have and how it affects our psyche and how it affects the way we feel about our city to see trash everywhere. Thank you.
I am really confused here because I thought that house was ready to, they were cleaning it up at once, weren't they? Is it another garbage dump that people dump their garbage off at?
No, there's no new garbage. been there since they condemned it.
I don't understand that.
This will be an internal
Maybe
debate, I
Steve
imagine.
can talk on that.
You know, you can, yeah, because, again, I think we do want to move forward on things like this, and so, but again, just newest city administrator, this, we had, you know, so we're in all this transition, but Steve, you want to address this?
Yes, we've been working on this particular case for several months. There was a lot more trash than you see currently. There was the trash that's there was spilling out into the right-of-way. Because that wasn't on private property, we did clean that portion of it up. We're working with the bank, which now owns the property, to deal with the property, and we're actually very close to getting some resolution to that one. It has been an eyesore for a long time. We're well aware of it.
So hang in there, Clay.
Well, the bank has plenty of money to pay plenty of fines.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
hang
right.
in there.
Appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Wendy?
Marilyn Vogler.
Just state your name for the record, please.
Marilyn Vogler, 420 East Poplar. And I suppose by comparison with 409 East Street, which I have seen, and the visioning project, this is a small item. But I have two concerns about the new format of the looking ahead sheet. In the first place, we used to have one purple sheet that, although the print was small, it was fairly easy to read and sort out what we needed to pay attention to. And after talking to Leslie Ann, I gather at the beginning of the year this is not going to be just 2 but 4 sheets because it will have the whole year on it. And so it's 4 sheets of paper and a staple, where in the past we only had 1. And I'm kind of a conservationist in that sense. I like to use as few resources as possible. But my main concern is that because of all the things that are included on here that one might reasonably assume would be included, we've got consent agenda, vouchers, payroll warrants, minutes, all the way down. Consent agenda, vouchers, minutes, way down in September 6th, all the way through the end of the year. There's a lot of information on here that we don't need to be informed. It's simply a given. And you know, I've spoken to you before about transparency in government and making sure that the public knows what's going on. My concern with this is that the important details, and there are some on here, are lost in the trivia that we don't really need. And so I don't know whether it's a formatting issue, I don't know whether it's going back to listing simply the non-routine items, but I'd ask you to think about how you can best make the future discussions of the commission available to and apparent to the public that really would like to be informed, and I think would be much more amenable to things the commission does if they were more readily and comprehensively informed of what's coming up. Thank you.
Duly noted. Thank you very much for your input. Do we have anybody else? Wendy?
No.
At this time. Okay. Now, we have no consent agenda today. We have no old business, but we have a few items in new business, and the first one will be the Washington State Department of Transportation letter concerning Shelton Hills, and Steve Goins is going to bring that information to us.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. I'll try to be succinct in my presentation here. In summary, Hall Equities sent a letter to WashDOT and other parties requesting some help and relief for the bidding process associated with their interchange work. And in summary, there's really 3 components here that we're trying to describe as part of what the ask is here. There's the overpass at Wallace Nealon 101 and the improvements east of the overpass.
Sorry, this is the last person.
That's all right. I'll continue. That's one piece of the improvements. A second piece is the improvements basically west of the overpass. There are improvements that would be part of the city right-of-way in the future, basically the extension of Wallace Nealon Boulevard. And then there's portions that would be part of the state highway system. That's primarily the new on and off ramps that would be constructed south of where the current on and off ramps are located. Hall Equities basically is agreeing to a bidding process for the overpass and the improvements east of 101. There's no debate over that portion. The debate lies in how to bid and construct the improvements west of the overpass. Their request is to have all of those components be part of a private bidding process, and as you probably read in WashDOT's letter, they cited state codes that prohibit them from that, basically because of requirements for work that's paid for by part of public funds or that's part of an exchange agreement needs to be following this formal bidding process that the state has mandated. We reviewed the letter, and I should add, for that matter, there's attachments in here from the county who has already responded to this letter, and a response was provided by Neil Campbell from the regional office to this letter. Our letter responds to Hall's letter, plus some of Neil Campbell's response letter, which I think we just received in the last week or so. We believe that there's some merit to Hall Equity's request because the value of the improvements on the portion that we're not debating, the overpass and the improvements east of the overpass, have greater value than the land that's just being exchanged. So if you take that at face value and you say, look, we're going to build these improvements, and in exchange we want this land that these other improvements are on, and we will replace those improvements for you as part of that agreement, we believe that meets the letter of the law. And in summary, that's what our letter goes on to describe. The second issue that was brought up was the timing for the exchange. Hall Equities has requested that the property be somehow transferred as part of the exchange agreement and prior to the improvements being constructed. Our position is that we understand WashDOT's belief that they cannot enter an agreement which does that because they need to have a system that's whole. In other words, they can't exchange the property and then have something go wrong with those improvements that don't replace the value that they exchanged. They need the on and off ramps to be replaced before they can hand them over or the property they're on. We get that. But we asked them to find a way, if they could, to accommodate that request if there's a mechanism within the regulations that would allow that exchange, whether it's bonding or some other mechanism. We also were just added in our letter that there may be some way we can come to an agreement on the mass grading, which is part of this western improvement, and making that a separate action, which would make these future construction projects at least a lot easier to manage if the grading portion was taken out, which is a substantial part of this endeavor. I think that summarizes the letter. I don't know if you have any questions.
I do. Why has it taken 10 years? Why has this been in process, this thing? It says the proposed interchange improvements has been part of WashDOT plans for the past decade. Can you explain why so long?
Are you specific to the WashDOT plans?
Mm-hmm.
Before we could even begin the design, there had to be a justification for what that new design would look like. We went through a rather detailed process with WashDOT, and the outcome of that was a justification report which identified the preferred alternative method of improving the interchange. That process probably took 3 years in itself. It was a great deal of involvement with the WashDOT folks over coming up with this design. The design is the one we currently have.
Okay.
At that point, the economy was rather soft. I think Hall just took their time in getting those design pieces into the WashDOT system. And as like a lot of government entities, that review process takes a while. So what you might think might take a few months ends up taking a few years because of the stops and starts along the way. So here we are today.
Also, we have come to an impasse concerning the advancement of draft land exchange agreement. Is that what you just explained, the impasse?
Yeah, the exchange agreement needs to include this mechanism of how everything's going to move forward, including the bidding process and the construction for these improvements.
All right.
Any other questions?
Oh, I would just like to acknowledge that from everything that I have seen, that staff has done what they can do in a timely manner. It's as you're discovering on the visioning process, everything takes forever. But I would just like to commend Steve on the work that he's doing with WashDOT. I've attended one meeting with about 20 other people from all areas of WashDOT, and it was pretty amazing how many people are engaged in this process, and I think that everyone wants it to succeed, and so I'm glad for each piece of paper that we're getting that shows that we're making forward progress. So
I thank you too.
thank you.
I guess if you were looking for support from this commission to sign a letter or put our support towards moving this forward and working the details out as you have recommended, I, for one, would vote for that. So I think we need to join with the county and say, look, this is good for us, we want to do it, but we also want to give fairness into this arena here. So I don't know what we do from this point forward. If we are in agreement to move forward, we need to sign a letter or something, I think.
Our recommendation was to sign the letter that's been prepared. The timing of that would be your call. Our typical three-touch rules would put this on the consent agenda next week. If you wanted to press that forward this week, that'd be fine with staff as well.
Well, the county already submitted a letter, I guess.
That's
in
correct.
support of this. And if we are in agreement, then we bypass the three-touch rule like every other week anyway, so I don't imagine it would be the end of the world. So, I mean, we've been thinking about this for like 10 years, so I think we probably would lean towards making the decision sooner than later. But it's up to this commission's...
I would be very much in favor of signing the letter today.
I would be too.
So protocol, Robert's Rules of Order. So what do we need to do at this point? A motion. Okay. Then I need a motion.
I make a motion to sign the upcoming letter from the city to go with the county's letter and get this project going. Is that a good one?
Sure.
Okay, make it simple.
Could I do a second for sake of discussion purposes? This letter isn't, this is the exact copy of a letter you want to send? Because this letter here is, I guess, I don't see a letter.
It's in the back. It's the very
Is it
end.
on the last page?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, I see this, yeah, all right.
The letter that was prepared by staff is addressed to Kevin Dayton.
Ah, yes.
Okay.
I would second the motion
Okay.
to sign this letter.
So there's been a motion and a second. I think we want to do this. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any further discussion? No? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Moving right on. Next, we have Upper Mountain View Pressure Zone issue, and it's going to be about a parametrics contract presented by Mike Michael, our city engineer.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. This is the last piece of the Phase 1 work. Now that we're getting near the end of construction, we have a small piece of engineering work that has been waiting for us to get to this stage. Essentially, as most folks know, we have a computer system that helps us control and monitor our water system. With the new facilities that have been built as part of Phase 1, we need to do some modifications to that computer system to be able to control and monitor those new facilities. Parametrics has been waiting patiently for some time now for this work to come their way. They've been doing our computer SCADA integration for some time now. This contract was originally planned in the project approvals, and now that we're at the point for needing that services, we realized that the amount was a little bit more than staff or directors could sign, or even the city administrator could sign, so we're bringing it to the commission today. And we're asking that the commission put this contract on the consent agenda for next week, authorizing the mayor to sign and the city administrator to make any budget modifications that may come up, not that they're expected.
Now, our city administrator said that he wanted to put in a few words at this time concerning this, and so I think we'll turn it over to you, Mr. Beckus.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, not so much for the commission's benefit, because you're pretty much attuned to this, but for the public who's here today or listening in elsewhere. This is not a bid for services or construction. This is a professional services work and therefore does not require bidding. And it certainly makes sense to continue with Parametrics, who did the initial design work for us. Secondly, what will happen if this isn't done? Well, frankly, the whole system depends upon being tied together with an electronic system that allows pumps to be turned on or off automatically, because we don't staff our water system 24/7. And last but not least, I want to make sure the commission is aware of that we haven't yet fine line identified the source of money for this professional services contract. It is in the budget, but I cannot tell you at this moment today whether it will be taken from budget reserves or from the financial package, which includes a loan. So I guess what I want to say is, before you act on this next week, we will have you that information so you can make a knowing decision.
I will speak to that. Basically, I have no problem myself signing on to this because it is something we have to do. It is something that's the last part of the phase one experience. And, dragging our feet on it, I don't see a big benefit. So I guess I would choose to support this at this time because the cost is not $1 million, okay? And it's something we need to do to finish that. So that's my 2 cents kind of on that. And I thank you for also bringing in the added information so that we all have a clear picture on that this may require borrowing some more money, maybe. So that's my 2 cents on it.
So just to be clear, you don't want to take it out of reserves, you want to use the existing loan?
Well, they're still looking in how they're going to fund it. And they're still looking into that. It may be totally funded, you just haven't put those pieces together.
That's correct. Actually, a little bit later today, you're going to get a report on the second quarter revenue. We have not yet done internally the second quarter expenditure report to match up.
Okay. Okay.
I
Yeah, I agree that we need to move forward with this.
Yeah. So, if we concur with that, is then you want to place this on the July 18th consent agenda, authorizing the mayor to sign and when returned from the contract of the city administrator will make the necessary budget modifications. Okay, do you feel comfortable with that, Mr. Buckus?
Yes.
Okay, so I think we concur with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
All right, now we have a number 3, and that is going to be something, we're going to turn the meeting over to Wendy at this time, talking about another contract for legal services.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. What you have in front of you is an agreement for legal services with our existing contracted attorney's office, Porter Foster Rorick. And the reason why I'm bringing this forward and asking for it is a little bit of history. As you guys may know, we used to have an ongoing contract for our labor negotiations that was a monthly paid a contractor that we had come in and assist with those negotiations. And then a number of years ago, our prior city clerk, Vicki Look, took on that duty, and she did a fair amount of training and was then our labor negotiator as well. So when Vicki left, we did not have anyone on staff that is educated and familiar enough to take over that duty, including myself. I have been through 1 year of negotiations now, but I have not done the training adequate to facilitate the negotiations. So we did contact our existing firm, and they have given us a cost for 2 years. We have 4 contracts, and they would negotiate. It's at a flat rate, so even if the contract negotiations take longer, which sometimes they do, the cost would be a set amount. As far as the budgeting and paying for that, for the year 2016, I do have adequate funds to pay for that based on savings and salaries. For 2017, I haven't looked at that yet, but it would be half paid for this year, $10,000 this year and $10,000 paid next year. So, and there is a clause that we would be able to cancel it if for some reason with the new city administrator coming on board, if something changes, then we do have that option, and I believe it's May of next year. So with this year
Okay.
being paid for, if something changes, we could.
So it's
end
like
the
a 2-year
contract.
agreement with a one-year league, or, so that was my
Yeah, the
question, and I
option.
just read that in
Yeah.
here, so, okay. Well, we miss Vicki Look, don't we?
Yes.
Questions?
I agree that we should do this.
I think it's what we need to do.
I just have
so-
one question. So, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
It says the city will provide assistance in preparing materials or other information necessary for performance of attorney's duties. So we'll get all the paperwork and all the information to them. And then it says the attorney shall not charge the city for the costs of phone calls, faxes, office copies, mileage, secretarial services, and any other costs that are part of the normal overheads. It says attorney shall bill for reimbursement of any outside costs. What's more outside than those, all those things?
Generally, in the past, when we've had to pay for something that was outside of our contract, it was filing fees or things of that nature. I don't foresee that we would have anything come
Okay.
up in this case.
All right. But we could.
Potentially, I can't think of what
Okay.
an example would be.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
So if we concur with this, staff is requesting to place this item on the consent agenda for July 18th and authorizing the mayor and the city attorney to sign. Okay, so I think we concur with that. We'll turn this over to our city administrator, Pete Bickus, at this time. If there's any administrative reports or information he wants to give us.
Very briefly, Thomas Donnelly, our acting director of finance, is going to present you with the second quarter revenue report. So Thomas, you're on.
All right, Thomas.
Thank you, Pete and commissioners. I'm going to go touch on the second quarter revenue report so far. The general fund revenue and utilities are on track with the budgeted revenues for 2016. Currently, the total general fund revenue is approximately at 51%. You folks have a handout for those of you in the audience. Excuse me. There's a I'm going to continue. I'm going right into the general fund. That's everybody's, the most important fund, as it were. And of the general fund, taxes comprise 61% of all the revenues. The graph that you see is just our budgeted at 61%, and to the right of that graph is the total taxes collected to the year. Currently, of our total sales taxes, the sales in B&O are a pretty good indicator of economic health. And right now, our sales tax is about 1/4 or 1/2% over the budgeted June. So we're tracking at approximately 7% over 2015 levels. And we're projecting 3% over our budgeted year end. That's on the sales tax. The B&O tax is running at about 11.5% over our June revenue budget. It's tracking, if I were to track it against the prior year, it's really, compared to 2015, it's down by 20.92%. And that's mainly comprised of our waterfront businesses, which were taken into account during the budget process for 2016. So we have factored those in. There's a new revenue stream that came on in June, and that's the Transportation Benefit District, or TBD. It was our first distribution, and it was approximately $38,900. It's based on estimated sales tax and running it against our sales tax model. I'm projecting it should be around $270,000 by year end. It's budgeted at $185,000. So that's a good thing, which ends in 10 years in April 2026. Of the top 5 tax revenues, which comprises 82% of the total taxes, we're seeing a good indication that both the sales, utilities, B&O, the property taxes are online. These are all strong indicators, and their variances are all positive, with the exception of the electric tax collection, which is certainly is down a little bit by about 3%. And that's probably due to weather and consumption. Right now, our projections as a whole for all taxes by year end are at about a positive 0.7%. So we're right on track. And that's about it.
Very good. Any questions or comments
No.
for Thomas?
Oh,
Good report.
I apologize. There's an additional handout. I didn't necessarily need to speak to it. I think it speaks for itself. It's an example of a taxable purchase of $1,000 and where your money goes. Where does that money actually go? And there's a small table that just shows, I apologize for bringing the digits out so far, but it allows you to understand basically, calculationally, where does your 8.8% go when you pay tax here in the city of Shelton? That's all. Thank you.
Questions or comments for Thomas?
Oh, well, thank you so much for
Yeah,
the
very
report.
much.
It's-
Good.
I think it's great news, and I would also, since he's here, like to once again recognize former Commissioner Olson for his work on getting the Transportation Benefit District through. Thank you, Mike.
And the good news is that we're 7% above last year, on track to be, for retail sales, 7% above last year. I guess that's because the mills weren't retail, or how is that, I'm just I wasn't expecting that really. But
The waterfront properties, the waterfront businesses, there's a combination of taxes that we had to take into account for. Sales tax being one of the most difficult to put your finger on. B&O was a little more straightforward, along with the utilities and the utility taxes. So the impact to sales, we had to reduce our revenue projections as it relates to sales tax revenues based on potential unemployment.
Well, keep up the good work, I'm sure you did it all.
Good job.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you very much for that report. Next is another general public comment. Here's an opportunity. You just need to sign in. Anybody signed in? Nope. All right, administration final touches.
I have none, Your Honor.
All right, our next meeting will be July 18th at 6 p.m. in the evening. But I will say at this point, we're going to go into executive session at this point. And there's no action to follow, so we're going to be talking about something where there's no action to follow. So I've just announced when our next meeting would be. I will officially adjourn this meeting after our executive session. So,
Okay, everybody has to leave the room.
yeah. So